Hey Neil, and 10.
Hey, Vishen, this is 10, who you haven't met yet.
Congratulations on the whole new era you're going through as a parent.
Thank you. It's a blast. He's into it too.
And tell us about your son. How old is he?
He's seven
Did,
months and he learned his first word. That's his first word right there.
Daka.
Yeah, he's
I
seven
like
months.
that.
Right. And now I'm curious because you're really into kind of questioning commonly accepted beliefs and realities. So
Hmm.
let me ask you, as a parent, what have you taught your child that is in keeping with those beliefs versus conforming to what's out there?
Well, the first thing is, right, the biggest tip in parenting I got is from a woman called Shelley Lefko, who's one of America's top parenting experts. And what Shelley
Right.
said is the most important thing you got to understand as a parent is watch your child's belief systems. Parents don't get this, but kids are meaning making machines and they make meaning on everything. You ask a kid to go stand in a corner because he disobeyed, and you may think that's the right thing to do. But in the kid's mind, the kid is thinking, well, why did dad ask me to stand in a corner? Does dad not trust me? Does dad not respect me? Dad doesn't respect me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Dad is upset with me. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe he doesn't want to be with me. And all of these things go in their head and they build up as these kids reach teenagehood. So most children, no matter where they are, grow up underconfident with less self-esteem than what they should have because of the meaning-making machine interpreting everything in the world in the worst possible way. So what I do with my kid is every night before we go to bed, we have a conversation, right? And I ask him, so tell me, Hayden, what what beauty did you see in the world today? Or what are you grateful for? Or what do you love about yourself? And when you ask kids these questions before putting them to bed, you force them to interpret the world through positive meaning. And positive meaning builds their self-esteem. It makes them see the world as a beautiful place. It makes them value you more, right?
I love. Can't wait to do that. I love that idea. My wife's in the background, so I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll actually send you a video on it, and I'll send you an incredible. So just before interviewing you, I'm interviewing a lot of parenting experts for my books as well. I'll send you this really beautiful video by one of the parenting experts I interviewed, and it is amazing. She's actually you know Evan Pagan, right?
yeah. Oh, it's
Well,
Annie, right?
this is Rhea, Annie's sister.
Got it. Oh,
So
cool.
so I don't know. Have you met Annie?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know if you've met Rhea, her sister, but this is Rhea Lala. Incredible expert in parenting, and I've learned so much from her. So I'll send you a 1 hour interview with her where she lays out 6 rules that you gotta understand as a parent. Beautiful stuff.
Great. I love it. I can't because a lot of it really is about taking care of the child's needs above the child's needs first. So, for example, he's making noise and like quiet. I'm on Skype. He doesn't know that I'm repressing his natural
Yeah,
spontaneity. I got to yell and let him yell and be as free, as this little baby wants to
and
be.
that's
By
and
the way,
that's good.
all of this is going to tie 100% into our discussion of relationships. So we're
Right.
not off the subject at all. Just so
I
you know.
know, I know, and I know,
Because,
and I know you, Neil, as a writer, and so I know that everything here that's going on right now has a meaning, and you're gonna bring it up in our conversation.
exactly, exactly. We're opening some loops. We're opening some loops.
So I always start all of these conversations with a question, okay? Just so people get to know you a bit outside the formal interview. And that question is, answer one of the following. What what gets you out of bed every morning, or what keeps you up at night?
Uh, let's see. What gets me out of bed is I'll just answer both really quickly. What gets me out of bed is now it's the baby, but it's also an underwater workout that I do with Laird Hamilton, the big wave surfer's house.
Uh-huh.
It's the most incredible thing I've done. It's lifting weights underwater. It's a lot like hypoxic oxygen. You'll exhale all your air and swim underwater with weights. It's so intense, and then you'll go in the ice bath and the sauna, and it just starts my day so great. So it's the baby and the workout. It's just like what better way to start the day. And what keeps me up at night is deadlines.
As a writer, I can get that. So we're going to be having a very interesting conversation today. And for people here who are listening and who are familiar with your work, this marks a new era. I love seeing the kid because we're going to be talking about relationships. And there are 5 big questions you're going to address. And I'm just going to run them for the audience so the audience kind of has a framework, right?
I love that the guy who's all about questioning reality and the way we do things has like a specific way he always does things. You may just be creating a new reality to be questioned.
Well, you see, the thing about these are more than interviews. I design them in such a way where the people listening learn a ton. Okay, so the 5 things are, and again, feel free to deviate, Neil. I know you. Is it natural to be faithful? Do alternatives exist to monogamy? What draws us to our partners? What keeps our love from fading from partners? And what do you do when a relationship ends? When they walk out on you or when you walk out? And I think all 5 of these are really important questions.
Great.
So,
yeah, I've been deep in this for the last 5 years, so I'm excited to discuss.
so first, for those of us who read some of your earlier books, tell us what's up. I know you're now married to Ingrid. You have a beautiful son called Ten. What, where are you now in life? Give us a quick update.
Yeah, no, it's been an insane journey, which I think we'll talk about and get into deeper. But I really, on a unconscious level, and I was completely unaware, was terrified of commitment. I was so scared of commitment, but I didn't know it. I keep getting in relationships, and they kind of wouldn't work out, and I always blame the other person. And I'd think this next person was different, but it would be another variation of the same relationship. Until I kind of met Ingrid, and I wasn't able to blame anything on her, and I had to take I had to start looking at myself, which was probably like the best, most transformative journey I've had in my life. And it all comes down to what you were saying at the beginning of the call. So if you can elaborate on what you were saying, just to sort of make the point, because a lot of people think, oh, childhood stuff, psychology, yeah, I've got to like whatever, Freud and all this stuff, and people kind of hate psychology. But if you think about it kind of scientifically, you're born and your brain is, you've got your brain, but the architecture isn't there. Most of the architecture isn't there, and it's being, as you said earlier, you're making machines. The estimate, I think it's a low estimate, is that a child's making 700 new neural connections a second, and I think it's actually a way low estimate. That's supposedly the estimate. And so what happens is by the time a child is age 3, that child has more neural connections than you and I at age 3. And so all these little things that are happening, like my parents, for example, had the philosophy of cry it out, right? If your child's crying, leave them alone, let them cry it out. And what's wiring? It's like, hey, when I'm in pain, I'm on my own. No one will come get me. No one will. So that's all kind of being wired in there, right? And then from 3 to into adolescence, a process called pruning takes place, whereby the neural connections we don't need are removed. So then you're stuck. Then you're left with like the box that you're in, the box that we're all in, that annoying reality that everyone can see but us. And that's what we're working from, whether it's in relationships and career in our lives.
Wow. Do you want to go on to the first question?
Sure. What was it?
which is it natural to be faithful?
Got it. So yeah. So I think it's interesting that the question, is it natural to be faithful? Yeah. So I would question the idea: is it natural to be or do anything? A lot of people, and I'm sure people you've interviewed, can justify just about anything with evolution, or looking at some of our ancestors, or looking at another tribe or culture. And I truly believe it's evolution, and what's natural is such a slippery argument that you can use it to justify any behavior, literally any behavior you want. It's such a slippery argument. And a lot of people sort of justify their behavior based on evolutionary theory. And I guess the simple answer, and you said I would do this at the beginning, is that if you have to look at what's natural or what's evolutionary right, or anything to justify your own behavior, you should probably be questioning it, right? To base your behavior on a scientific theory seems insane versus really like listening to yourself, to listening to what's right, inside. So the simple answer is it natural to be unfaithful? Well, hey, Helen Fisher would say yes, who's the famous anthropologist, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say that, and by the way, I'm not speaking from the pulpit, I'm speaking from a guy who cheated and got caught, and that sent me on the whole journey into the relationship stuff, just to like put my cards right on the table. Is that lying and that deception was like a literally break and a rupture in the relationship, and it's a rupture in the continuity of who you are. So what I would question is, why can't people be honest? To me, lying, and again, we're talking to the guy who really like lived a deceitful life before, and really pay the price in terms of I might not have had my wife and my child, and I mean the best. It's such a bigger gift. As a friend of mine says, I don't trade short-term pleasure for long-term happiness. So anyway, to me, let's just say you're in a monogamous relationship, you have the option of telling your partner anytime, I want to go sleep with that person. You can be totally honest, and they can either, you can discuss it and it's okay, or it's not okay, and you can still do it. You just have to know that sleeping with that person is more important than your relationship. So we lie because we try to control somebody else. So to me, is it naturally unfaithful? It doesn't matter. Is it like ethical, moral, true to your partner, true to yourself to it? Hell no. If you think you're going to be unfaithful, then negotiate a different relationship.
So what you're saying is that it's really about, it's not about labeling it right or wrong, but it is about honesty. If your partner decides that it is okay for you to go and sleep with someone else, then that's fine. But the act of lying is what could be really harmful to a relationship.
Right. And I would go one layer deeper, which is why do you want to go sleep with that other person? In the sense that to me, there are three entities in a relationship. There's you, there's the partner, and then there's the relationship itself. And I would only recommend doing something like that if it's healthy for all three entities. If you're in some relationship where you're in such emotional control that the person's going to do it so as not to lose you, it's unhealthy for two of the entities. It's just good for you, and it's selfish and narcissistic. So the funny thing, and I'm sure you're into it, I can tell you what, I'll ask you this as your thought on it, because I have trouble explaining it sometimes, that two people can go do the exact same thing. One person in a relationship could go have an experience with someone else, and another person in a relationship could have an experience with someone else. Two different people could do the same thing under the exact same circumstances. For one person, it could be healthy. For another, it could be unhealthy. Because it's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. Are you hiding from intimacy, or are you adding to intimacy? What are the reasons? And so I've never quite been able to explain why is it okay, say for some people want to be entrepreneurs, start have a startup, make millions of dollars, and that's great for them. They get funding and it's awesome. Other people want to do that, and literally they should stop trying to make money and go travel and see the world and have a great time. So why do you think, how would you explain that it's not about what you're doing doesn't actually matter so much?
How would I explain it? Well, I think. Well, let's talk about the whole faithful and intimacy thing, right? I think why sometimes some people are unfaithful is not so much of a biological drive, but a self-esteem issue. Maybe they feel unloved. Maybe they feel that there's something that they aren't getting from the relationship they are in. Maybe they feel an affinity to someone else, or the touch or the bond from someone else, and that's what causes it. And what I found is that the higher my self-esteem, the more in love I am with myself, the less desire I have to be attracted to other women, or to even need attention from other women. Right. And so to me, it's all about self-love. And I found that as I've gotten older, one of the biggest keys about being in a healthy relationship that I've learned is to love yourself first. And when you do that, you stop feeling needy from your partner. When you do not have yourself fully complete, because there's a gap in there somewhere. It causes these dysfunctional relationship habits where you're chasing someone else. Like, you're chasing someone else, you have unfair demands of them. That neediness, I know in the earlier parts of my relationships, caused strain between me and my wife. But as I got closer and more in love with myself, and she did the same with herself, we stopped being so needy about each other. Now, when that happens, as we matured, interesting things happen. For example, in the old days, maybe 7 years ago, if I was having breakfast and she was quiet while eating breakfast with me, I'd start asking myself these questions. Is she upset with me? Does she not notice I'm here? How dare we sit down to have breakfast together and she doesn't say a word? And now, I don't care. I'm like, maybe she's obsessed in thoughts. Wonderful. I love how intelligent she is. Maybe she's sleepy, but gosh, she looks beautiful today. And I turned off that meaning-making machine because the meaning-making machine was being activated because I had this hole in myself where I didn't feel complete. But so when that happened, the relationship got better. But what also got better is that because I'm so in love with myself, I don't feel a need to chase other women or even be attracted romantically to other women. I'm just really complete with who I am, and I'm obsessed with my mission. And so, the whole unfaithful thing doesn't really sway me right now. I'm always surrounded by beautiful women, but it has no effect on me.
That's, you know, it's funny. Hold on, I'm going to grab something because there's a quote. I literally just got the book from the printer, and there's a quote that ends the book that we're talking about. I just got it from the printer literally yesterday. It's a lovely Bible.
Wonderful.
There's a quote that ends it. Can I read it? Because it's exactly
Yes.
like you said. And it's from James Hollis, who's a Jungian psychoanalyst. And it's exactly what you said. The best thing we can do for our relationships with others is to render our relationships to ourselves more conscious. So the point being that it's not just about loving yourself, but the steps to that are first understanding and knowing yourself. This is not a narcissistic activity. In fact, it will prove to be the most loving thing we can do for the other. The greatest gift to others is our own best selves. Thus, paradoxically, if we are to serve relationship well, we are obliged to affirm our individual journey. So that's James Hollis.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah.
And I
Right?
can see how this tied to the conversation we had earlier about kids. Most kids grow up in America and everywhere else in the world with feelings of hurt because of the little screw-ups that people like you and me make unconsciously as parents. And so we raise hurt people. And hurt people hurt people. The people who are hurting others in relationships are doing it because they are hurt. So I think one of the best things we can do is make ourselves whole and raise our kids to be whole. And
Right.
that's when we move into a world with healthier relationships.
So let me jump in on a couple things. It's not most kids in America. It's all kids everywhere. In
Everywhere.
the sense that, you know, first of all, it's easy to like. There's a lot of things we have to question, especially when to question preconceptions, right? This just because there's a line here and there on a map means nothing,
Yeah.
obviously. But the point is, all human beings are imperfect. Thus, all parents are imperfect. Thus, we are all imperfectly raised. So this applies to every single person. If you're thinking this and think not me, then you have a narcissistic wound that we can discuss
Right.
later. Because there's a certain kind of wound where you feel less than others, and you're talking about the less than. I'm not enough.
Mhm.
Other people have the flip side of that wound, which is no one is enough for me. And they're the hardest people to work with because they're the ones who are listening and saying,
Right,
not
right.
me, my parents were perfect. If you're saying that, get into therapy ASAP. And I mean, we can discuss that more if you want. Also, something else you noted is, you know, I'm seeing a theme in the stories you're telling, which is that you talked about when you're talking about children and not feeling, oh, hey, like, you know, hey, I don't matter. And then later you're talking about sitting at the table with your wife and feeling I don't matter. So that's your wound is the I don't matter wound, which is why you've made it, you know, and I won't use the colorful language that's in the book, but there's a lot. I think trauma, as it's called, any way you were raised that was less than nurturing as trauma, just as it is a deficit, it also has a gift. And of course, your gift is because you felt like not enough, and not mattering. You've gone and built this incredible empire that really matters and made a point to matter to the world. So there's also a gift to all this stuff.
True. And I love how you said that. That was my wound. My wound, for those of you listening, was I don't matter, or I'm not important enough. And so I had to do big things so I could finally matter. But, you know, it took me, decades to heal that wound. And now I think it was only when I turned 37 or 38 that I figured out that I actually matter. So
Right.
It takes a while. Now, Neil, I'd love to go on to the second question.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, wait. Am I interviewing you or are you interviewing me?
We're having a great conversation.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. Now, I think a lot of people in self-improvement like to create this model of perfection that, hey, I've got self-love and now I feel I matter. So let me ask you, there must be times, let's just say you're in a room full of real sort of powerful people or people you're really impressed by, where that old wound comes sneaking back and you're like, I thought I healed
absolutely.
it. I'm feeling this. So how do you repair it in the moment?
Well, that I do feel that does happen. That does happen. And so one of the things where I feel that is, see, I grew up as a kid really shy, and sometimes I just get overwhelmed when I'm in a room with really incredible people, or I'm in a large social gathering. I remember when I was at Burning Man last year, and there were times when I just hated it. I had to escape. I felt I would be at a party at Burning Man, and I wouldn't know how to strike up a conversation with someone. I would feel shy. I would regress to all my childhood behaviors. And I'd just go back to my tent, sit down, get away from everyone, read a book, and feel all mopey and depressed.
Right.
So that still happens to me.
And it's funny because the Burning Man thing is like your table conversation with your wife, except
Right.
it's easier with her because she's around. You're like, I have to interact. to be
Right.
okay versus actually being there and not interacting, would that have been okay? So interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But even right now, it comes up every now and then.
And how do you treat how do you treat it when it does?
Well, one thing I do. So there is treating it when it does, and then there's maintenance, so it happens less. So two things. Firstly, when it does, just step back. I step back. I leave the party. I leave the situation that makes me uncomfortable, and I go home and I just relax with my two favorite pleasures in the world: red wine and a good movie.
So it's basically you treat it with alcohol.
And
I'm kidding.
well, actually, frankly, yes,
Bottle
I
of
do,
tequila.
I do. Now, the second thing is maintenance, right? One of the things I do is and this is one of the most beautiful exercises I've learned. Every single day, I practice gratitude. So I mentioned 5 things I'm grateful for in my personal life, 5 things I'm grateful for about work, but I add a third addition to it: 5 things I love about myself. And it sounds, some people may say that's narcissistic, but it isn't. Telling myself, Vishen, 5 things I love about myself is such an incredible exercise because, it makes you feel whole again. It reminds you, rather, that you are whole, and it gives you fuel to go out there and not feel like you need to hear it from other people. So it makes you less immune to praise or insults, negative or positive feedback. And I found that daily exercise, it takes me only 30 seconds, really helps me.
That's nice. I like that. I wonder if like very kind of sorry, that's my phone in the background or my door. I wonder if very cocky people should do de-affirmations where they think of 5 things they don't like about themselves to get back down to earth. So I have a thought, and this is a tool I use, and maybe it'll be helpful or not to yourself or the couple other people who are listening.
By the way, I just want to say something to people who are listening and wondering why there's a baby and there's dogs bark in the background. Look, one of the things that we really love about these interviews is that it's natural. This is me in my natural state. It's Neil in his natural state. So it's not meant to be a studio quality thing. We really want to bring you guys authors and thinkers in their raw natural state. Okay, so don't whine about the dog complaining or the quality of the audio. Neil, please continue.
Right, and yes, and we're not going to get too raw and natural. We're going to leave. We're not going to get too crazy. So yeah, a couple thoughts. So yeah, here's a thought of this. And yes, things are going to happen. I think it's a time when everyone starts arriving in my home. So I'm currently moving the office elsewhere, but they're going to be a small coterie of individuals may be coming in and out. And again, we'll add to the excitement of this. And again,
right.
It's real. It's real life. So here's the thing you can do, which is, and I'll just kind of talk about your situation, but it could apply to anyone's situation. Mm-hmm. We talked about the box earlier that we're in, and we all have the stories we tell ourselves that are complete lies, completely not true. And you can see when it comes up, because here's the tool of telling it. Here's the tool of identifying it, which is whenever you feel less than others or better than others. Some people think, oh, I'm better. Some people just flip to the flip side. They're like, well, I feel less than everybody else, and now I feel like everybody sucks and I'm the greatest. My self-esteem is improved. No, it isn't. It's the flip side of the same dysfunctional coin. It's to get there because obviously I'm preaching the converted, but all human beings are equal. Just that is life. And so basically when that happens, I often find there's a point in our emotional development where we're stunted. And inside, confident, successful philosopher, entrepreneur that is you, and curator of great experiences that is you, as well as so many things. Is that little kid who feels like he doesn't matter, and every now and then, when the buttons or the wounds are pressed just right, he starts to get scared and kind of get into the driver's seat. And what you can do instead of actually kind of leave, which is nice. I like that you get out before it kind of escalates, and then take care of yourself so you can come back to equilibrium. What you can also do is take care of them right there and say, hey, and you might call him Little Vishen or whoever is listening. Maybe it's Little Neil for me, or Little whatever your name is. If you're listening, is say, and you just have to tell him what he needed to hear, which is, hey, Little Vishen, these people are not. Was it your dad or your mom for you? Was it your dad or your mom?
Both.
Where the phone came from? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Just say, these people, are not your parents. You don't, hey, Little Vishen, these people are not your parents. You don't need their validation and acceptance to be okay. And then you tell them what he needed to hear. First of all, you say, so relax. I'm taking care of this. I got you. I love you. I will never abandon you. And here we are. We're around some people, and I'm gonna enjoy myself. And whether they talk to us or don't talk to us, it doesn't matter because they're not our parents. So take care. Thanks for taking care of me, but I got this.
Nice. I like that exercise.
Yeah, and so literally, so I'll give you my example, which is, and it's interesting because it's the opposite of yours, and this happens to a lot of people too. Which is the flip side of abandonment is enmeshment or engulfment. And do you know what that is, or that
No.
general idea? What that is when you're overwhelmed by a parent. Instead of abandoned by a parent, you're overwhelmed by a parent, and it can take many different forms. Some people just really protective parents who are just always sort of controlling their movements. Other people have narcissistic or depressed parents. You're thinking of someone you know. You're thinking of someone.
Yeah.
I watch it. Yeah, body language is great. It's great to read. Is it your wife by any chance?
No, no, no. I was thinking about a friend. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. And by the way, and this goes back to the cheating thing you said earlier. All our little threads tie together because this is often the reason why people cheat as an outlet from a relationship. So anyway, here are examples of being overwhelmed. Basically, it's a parent whose needs are more important than your own needs. So in other words, if they have a lot of anxiety whenever you're gone, they're stressed out, it doesn't mean they love you. It just means you're there to treat their anxiety. If they're depressed growing up, here's a good sign. If you ever felt sad or bad for a parent growing up, it meant you were being overwhelmed by their needs. If they were divorced or a parent was unhappy, that's a form of engulfment. And what happens is you're losing your childhood because you're, taking care of them. Sometimes it even feels good. Like for example, my mom would come. She had a bad relationship with my dad, and she'd come into the room and tell me, "Oh, your father sucks, and no one understands him but you." And as a kid, I'm like, "Ooh, I'm 12. This feels cool. I can talk to my mom like an adult." But what she's really doing is just so overwhelmed with her needs that I'm not getting taken care of. I'm taking care of her. So what happens with this type of person, and this is what happened with me, is that you get in a relationship wanting to be in love, but and you choose a needy person who's like your mom to take care of them, even if they don't seem needy at first, and then soon, it's never enough. Resentment starts to occur. You start to feel overwhelmed again on an unconscious level, and you act out as almost a release valve from the relationship. So we're talking about cheating, and you mentioned some of the reasons that people cheat to deal with, self-esteem. I think was your main point.
Mm-hmm.
But the other reason they cheat is that they feel overwhelmed by the feminine or the masculine, and they feel so overwhelmed and controlled by this person's need that they're like, I'm not going to be controlled or lose myself again to another person. And they act out on the side while still pretending to take care of the other person. It's a really common pattern. Give you a quick example. There's a makeup artist over, and she was talking about how she was with this guy, but he was just too needy, and it was like she should like him. He's really nice and really cute, and she doesn't know why, but she's just kind of not as into it as he is. And I said, let me ask you, tell me about your relationship with your dad. And she rolls up her sleeves, and on her kind of arm right there was a tattoo that said Daddy's Little Girl. So I'm like, well, of course you're not available for a relationship. Your heart still belongs to Dad.
Right. Man, why would someone put that as a tattoo?
Right. Yeah. Because that little box that we're talking about, it's been programmed. Like the thing is, like, we are, to use, and this is metaphorical, but like our software, is being programmed, right? And we've got these viruses that we can't recognize. Like trying to see yourself is like, like trying to touch like your right hand, trying to touch your right elbow.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see yourself. And so we've been programmed, and there are ways that we need to do a virus scan on ourselves to figure out where the bugs are and eliminate them.
So that leads to the question: what draws us to our partners?
Look at you getting that second. I was hoping maybe we could do the whole interview without getting to the second question, but you did it. You did it. And I respect that. So
you wanted to skip the second question?
No, I was hoping we could just riff on the first for the whole interview.
Right.
But no, let's do that. You did it. Your little mind was
No.
turning on.
It's because that's a fascinating question. I want to see what you have to say.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, and it's a perfect extension of what we're talking about, which is that I believe, and many other people believe, it's not an original thought, is that these templates are set up in childhood. So, for example, and the reason I asked earlier whether it was your wife or not was when you grow up and you're abandoned by if you have to look at the sex parent of the partner you're attracted to. So, if you like men, it would be a male partner. If you're a male parent, if it's female, it would generally be a female parent. So for your case, if you look at the relationship with your mother, that will set the template for your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, so if you felt kind of abandoned by mom, and I'm not sure because this enmeshment idea is new, there could be some enmeshment too, I don't know.
Right.
Then generally your wife will likely have been closer to the abandonment side with her father. I'll speak about me so I can get concrete again. So I was obviously enmeshed by my mom. So with Ingrid, my wife, her dad basically like tried to kill her mom and then left the family. It's pretty hardcore. All the stuff's in the book, so I'm not telling secrets here. I got permission. It's in the book. I'm not telling stuff out of school. So that's the why, like, there are puzzle pieces on the book. So that's my theory. I don't know. Can you see those at all? Uh-huh. So that's my theory on relationships, is that we're like puzzle pieces that fit together like this. So it's like she was enmeshed by her mom. I was enmeshed by my mom. She was abandoned by her dad. I was abandoned by my dad. And so the idea is there's a line, when it's love at first sight, run in the other direction. Because all that's happened is your wounds have just kind of meshed with their wounds, both looking to be healed by the same fire that burned them. And the idea is that when we get that sudden, why is it, right? We all got that friend, and like she only dates unavailable guys, or he only dates whatever it is, some other kind of women, and of course dad was unavailable. So she doesn't recognize love in any other form, or mom was unavailable and he doesn't recognize love in any other form. So we all got that friend, and no matter what you do, they're still going to do that because, kind of like you were saying, you got to fill in those holes and repair those wounds. So what attracts us, I believe, is that child inside who's looking for the unavailable parent, but maybe this time that parent will be available and their wound will be healed. And you did something really nice. There's a relationship writer named Harville Hendrix who says that the relationships go through certain phases. There's the kind of romance period, which I would think of more maybe as the projection period, when we're projecting onto that person who we want them to be. And then people always talk about right after 3 months or 6 months or a year, oh, it all fell apart. It's always that period. You can never make it through that period. Well, you know why that period's so hard? The period's so hard because your projections are fading and you get to see who the actual person is. And then you say, you're not who I thought you were. No, you're getting to see who they are. And that's when a relationship really begins. And most people run away from that point, and go off and project onto someone else. So anyway, so in his thing, it goes romance. Then he says there's a power struggle. Then there's the power struggle outcome. In your case, kind of like when you're going through that, oh, you're not paying attention to me at breakfast, and you don't love me anymore, and and I'm not, what's wrong with, and you go into your whole shame spiral. I'm sure she at the same time is being like, oh God, he's a little bit, God, I'm having trouble being attracted to him. He's a little bit kind of needy, and I'm going to just work more, do whatever she does as her outlet. And then there's a power struggle outcome, and there can be several. One outcome is what they call like a parallel relationship, which is two people living in the same house but living completely different lives and not communicating, right? That's one outcome. Another is what's called like a hot relationship, where you're always fighting, like, the wounds are being poked and it's just always on fire. A third is just separating, giving up, being like, oh, like eventually, of course, you don't communicate and you keep feeling like not enough, and that person keeps feeling you're needy, and you're fighting all the time, and you cling on for 1 or 2 more years of misery and then break up. And then the last one is what you did, which is sort of a conscious relationship, which is you're like, okay, this has nothing to do with her. It's all about me. And let me just work on myself. And wow, as I heal, I suddenly found the relationship healing. And that's sort of the conscious one. He believes, by the way, you work on it together as a couple. Mm-hmm. I believe you can do it alone.
Wow. I love that idea that you just put forth. So there's the parallel relationship where you're living separate lives. There's the fighting relationship. What was the word you used for that?
Hot.
The hot relationship. There's separation, or there's the conscious relationship. That's really interesting. I can think of times when I've flowed into each of those 4 segments.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what keeps love from fading?
We're on to the third question. Very excited.
Yeah, because it directly ties in. Okay, so actually, I want to combine. There was another question you were going to talk about, and that is, do alternatives exist to monogamy? So
let's do what keeps love from fading. Are you okay with going out? Are we going out of order, man? You're not going to explode, right? Okay. So here we go.
Yeah. How do you I
Let's talk.
mean,
Let's talk. Yeah, I don't believe. I don't. And there are a lot of scientists who will tell you that these certain chemicals stop working and these other chemicals start working. But again, I think that if you stay connected and you deepen that connection, the love will keep growing. It's not like some weird thing like, oh, those weird people are still in love. There's sort of a choice to make to keep working on the relationship. Maybe for me, as the guy who wrote the game, the energy that I put into meeting other women years ago, well, that energy goes into like meeting my wife, to like to getting the relationship, to understanding each other, to deepening the relationship. So yeah, I think what happens to a lot of people. Here's the deal: if you turn your partner into mom or dad, it's going to be very hard to want to sleep with them, right? And so when you're at the table, and I know I keep using this example because it's one we've been talking about. When you're at the table, you're like, you're not paying attention to me. Well, they become, mom or dad, right?
right.
And then,
I just saw. I just got that insight.
right, right. And so if you can sort of like, reparent little vision, see them as who they are, and then work on these issues together, you get closer. Recently, my wife and I went to this amazing therapist who does this kind of Gestalt-like chair work, and it's fun. It's not like we were having issues. It's just like, hey, let's go explore this thing that's coming up in our relationship, where maybe there's some shame issues coming up with you, and there's some what was it with me? Some anxiety issues coming up with me. The fun thing about self-improvement is, like I said, you're never perfect, so you're never done. One of the purposes of life is to keep shedding your baggage so you can get as free as you can be. So after this work, and we did this great, very intense work, we literally just came home, all the shame, anxiety, they were just literally melted off because they weren't ours. It came from me having an anxious parent, her having a stepfather who blamed her for everything. They weren't ours. They're not ours. The shit that you're talking about, they're not ours. Everyone listening who feels shame or anger or pain, they're not yours. They're your programmers. They're your parents. And if you can separate that from you, you can be much healthier. So that night, I think we really, and then the nights after, we had like the best like kind of love making we ever had in our entire relationship, even better than when we just met. So I know I'm not just kind of talking it because it sounds right, but it's 100% true that you can deepen your relationship with your partner and have more love and more passion and better sex. And it's just about being conscious.
Mm-hmm. Now, you spoke earlier about people who are in situations where they are in a parallel relationship or a fire relationship. Now, of course, if they ascend, if they get conscious, the relationship starts to heal. But it could also go the other way, and they could break up. Do you have any advice for people who are in parallel relationships or fire relationships? Like, what's the next step that they could take?
Sure. Yeah. One thing is, it's not your partner. Like, any blame on the partner really doesn't help. Again, unless you're in a situation where you have to get yourself to emotional or physical safety, which is another thing, in which case, please do that immediately and cut off all communication. Right. What you can start doing is exactly what you said, Vishen, with yourself, and what we said when we were reading the quote from the book, which is to start healing yourself and working on yourself. Because what some people might do is say, hey, I watched this Skype interview with Vishen and Neil, and let's do this with me, and then the partner won't, and it'll lead to resentment and
right.
and stuff, right? And it'll just sort of be another example of all the things that are happening that are wrong with the relationship, which is just, if you start working and healing on yourself and you again, we pick partners who are at an emotional level, whether we think so or not. I hear all people all the time, God, he's so immature, or God, he's a jerk. And I think, well, you chose him. So you're right. You're right there with that person. So that as you work on yourself and as you raise your kind of EQ, one of two things are going to happen. One is your partner is going to, that change will filter into the relationship and raise the relationship and your partner, and maybe your partner even might want to do the work. Or B, you'll sort of be like, wait, who am I dating? I don't know if I have that much in common with them. I don't even know I was holding on to this thing. And you'll let go and find a partner who now is at a more conscious level.
Right. I realized that advice is really profound because, for example, when I was in college, I was trying to understand women. I remember picking up the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. Incredible book, but it didn't really help me. It didn't help me become better at relationships as much as I would have expected. But across the years, I read tons of books on relationships, and none of them really helped me. But the book that really helped me with relationships was Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. But the
Right.
thing is, Mastery of Love is not about loving someone else. It's about loving yourself. And the other
Right.
book that helped me with relationships is Kamal Ravikant's Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It. Both those books had the biggest impact on my relationship, but they were not about loving someone else. They were about healing yourself, healing those gaping voids within yourself that make you needy and make you seek to be with someone else. So it was
Yeah.
really, to me, about elevating our consciousness and getting to that level where we could give ourselves the love that we needed. We didn't have to demand it from someone else. And that made us a healthier partner, a more loving partner, a less needy partner, and it helped our relationships get to the next level. So my big advice for anyone listening is put down the book on relationships, okay? Unless it's Neil's book. In that case, I'm sure it's going to be incredible. But for a moment, and those books serve a purpose, like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, great book, but the problem could be self-love. And so I really want to recommend books such as Mastery of Love. Or even, I did an interview with Kamal Ravikant, who wrote the book Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It. Incredible interview, exercises on self-love. It's also part of this program. If you're part of this program, listen to that interview. But that was my big insight, Neil. It was self-love. That was one of the most profound things that elevated my level of relationships.
Great. One of my mentors in the book who really helped me come to a lot of these ideas, she said to me, she said, until you can be alone without loneliness, you won't be ready for a relationship.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Till you're okay, so you can just enjoy your own company, and you're good with that. Because so many people, they get out of one relationship and they're all broken up, and bam, they're in another relationship, and then they're okay till that one breaks up, and then bam, they're right in another relationship, and they're never getting in a relationship with themselves. They're just sort of like, it really is like an addiction. That's the heroin to feel okay with themselves.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you this, Neil, because this recently happened to a friend of mine. So a friend of mine just came out of a 10-year relationship. This is an employee of mine, and he's absolutely distraught, right? He's just really hurting right now. What would your advice be for someone who just went through or is going through a painful breakup?
Yeah, I think that painful breakups are the greatest opportunity for self-growth. First thing first, by the way, is no contact.
Yeah.
How's he been doing with that? Not very good, right?
I don't know yet. I'll have to check with him.
So no contact and no vicarious contact, like checking their Facebook profile, right? So the first thing is no contact, because every time you contact someone after a breakup, you're resetting the clock in your own recovery. It's kind of like we were just talking about the people who are in relationships. It's like you contact them and it feels okay, and then 5 minutes later you need it again. It becomes like this. So it resets the clock. So you've got to first do a strong no contact thing. Something I always advise people on when they're breaking up is to actually say, hey, for 1 week, we'll be available for each other. If we're really going to make this decision, we'll be available for each other anytime you're in pain or you need to talk, or, let's just be there. And then at this date, let's just, without any hard feelings, love, just not communicate until we're actually over it, till you're the other side of it. You can always be friends. I don't think there's anything wrong with being friends with an ex personally, but only when you can truly be friends with them with no, no expectations and let's say childish needs. So one is no contact. Second is that a breakup is a great opportunity to go explore. First of all, there's an abandonment wound being triggered that has nothing to do with the person your friend was dating. So there's an abandonment wound. There's an old wound being replicated that has nothing to do with this person. Because the truth is, I'm quoting my mentor in the book again, but she's great. And I wish she let me use her actual name in the book. She didn't, which is just a shame, because she's a genius. But she said, the only people who can be abandoned are children and dependent elders. As long as if you're an adult, then no one can abandon you but yourself. And they say that the word abandonment, and I want to put this in the book, but I couldn't get it down for a fact, like 100%. I'm meticulous with facts. They say the word abandonment comes from I think it comes from passion. I think it comes from passion. So you're actually, I forget the root, and maybe it's why I didn't put it in the book. But when it's not abandonment at the end of a relationship. You're actually returning to yourself. So it's not abandonment that occurs at the end of a relationship. You actually lost yourself in the relationship. The passion was the abandonment. And now that the passion is over, you're returning to yourself. And if that's painful, it means there's a relationship with yourself that you need to work on. So my answer to your friend is everything you just said about self-love, they need to go do. And then they can be ready for the next relationship and be sort of centered enough inside that if a breakup or a fight or separation occurs, it doesn't send their whole sense of self into a downward spiral.
Wow, I think that's really good advice. Really good advice, profound advice. And I like what you said about the rule of not checking up, breaking all contact. I remember reading about that once. I think, now I may be wrong here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that has to do with the chemical oxytocin. When we are in love with someone, there's an oxytocin release in our brain. And when we break up, we suddenly shut off the oxytocin, leading to levels of sadness. But a mere glimpse at their Facebook profile or text message can cause that oxytocin spurt again. But I remember reading that oxytocin is like caffeine, right? If you get off coffee for 2 weeks, you don't need coffee anymore. And if you get off that oxytocin attachment to that one particular person for 2 weeks, you don't need it anymore. You get off the desire. And so the breakup is still tricky, but it's far less painful than it was before.
Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's true. And there definitely is a withdrawal that can, that can occur. Again, yeah, it is just like a drug. Like you said, if you're, doing heroin and getting that dopamine spike again, or getting an oxytocin spike from someone. Exactly. And I think it's some oxytocins, there's some dopamine involved, but, we always like to kind of, there's sort of this cause and effect thing with brain chemistry, right? Is that the effect or is that the cause? Mm-hmm. And of course that stuff's all wired in early anyway. I spoke to a geneticist in the book because I really wanted to say, hey, maybe there's just like chemicals we can take and not have to deal with this. And he said, and he's one of the biggest kind of geneticists in terms of this Hassi Wallam, in terms of studying monogamy. Mm-hmm. He's identified monogamy to exactly where it comes from, which is they did a study on voles, and voles are the famous thing to study with monogamy because there's two kinds of voles, and one type of vole is really, really bonds for life, and the other time is like a player, a playette, and so they studied their brains, and they found that there was having the gene that creates longer vasopressin receptors in the brain is where pair bonding comes from. So the idea is if you have a gene that codes for not as long vasopressin receptors, then you're more likely to cheat. But so I said, oh, cool, man, maybe we can just do some vasopressin shots for guys around the world and women around the world. And he said, that there's very little he's found to be solely genetic. As we were saying at the beginning of this interview, that it really comes from the environment. He said that includes things like intelligence and autism. Like there's almost nothing he's found that's purely genetic. So, and his message was at the end, you get to change things. So science can allow us to feel like, and nature, and these science and nature explanations can allow us to accept what is. But I think you're all about the idea that you can change things.
Wow. That's some really interesting ideas. Neil, as we hit the end of this interview, I want to ask you for your thoughts on where relationships in the world today are going. Because, look, when I married my wife, Christina, this was in 2003. It was before Facebook, before YouTube, before Tinder. But there's been this interesting trend happening in America right now, and some people say it was Facebook, and it's been accelerated due to apps like Tinder. But people are dating more and more and more, but finding love less. The age of marriage is going up. I remember when I got married, the average age of marriage for the average American was 27, right? Now I believe it's in the mid-30s, and it's been just 12 years. Now, I'd love to know, what are your views on that? How is social media, how are new technological trends, new dating models like Tinder changing the face of relationships today, and where do you see relationships going?
Sure. Yeah, I talked to Stephanie Kuntz, who wrote a book, Marriage: A History, and she's the ultimate kind of historian on this stuff. And I think, and her belief is that, and I think it's true, and I think it's a great thing, is they're really entering that marriage used to be a package deal. You had to take it all, whatever, however many monogamy, however many children, marrying at a certain age, the old breadwinner model of male breadwinner, female housewife, like all that stuff is off the table now, right? And it's a good thing. And you can now pick and choose. You don't have to accept the package deal. Well, I want to get married, so I have to accept all this nonsense and give up my career and all this crazy stuff. Like, you can really pick and choose and design your own relationship. And our challenges now, and it's a great challenge to have, are designing these kind of conscious relationships we just discussed, that also involve a deep friendship with your partner. I think that if anything, I think that deep friendship is part of what sustains that relationship over time. So I think the challenge now is that a relationship is not like the build a burger model, but you can really design the relationship you want. And if two healthy people come together and design that relationship, it'll be healthy. Two unhealthy people come together, it'll be dysfunctional. So I think where it's going is, there's studies on choice that say choice makes people less happy. But I think if you're a happy person, you're going to make happy choices.
I like that. I like that. So it really is about our internal measure of happiness, our levels of conscious awareness, our levels of self-appreciation and self-love.
And knowing what your soul needs and discussing that with someone, versus in the past, like just saying, well, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you so badly, I'll just accept all your terms, even though I don't like them or agree with them, and then resent you and cheat.
Yeah. Well said. Tell us about your book, Neil. What are some insights and ideas that we'd get from your book?
Cool, man. I honestly think we've been talking about it the whole time.
Yeah.
Because literally, I'll just tell you about all my books in general, and it'll everything we've said. It's all these stories, all these ideas. They're all in there. But because my books work like this, I never think like, oh, here's a great book idea and people will like this. I usually just have a problem in my own life, and I start solving that problem. And if I start to find a solution, I get excited and realize like, oh man, I got to share this with everybody else. And that's my passionate excitement on this call. So basically when I was, unfortunately not when I cheated, but when I was caught cheating, and what a difference between being cheating and being caught cheating. I think some people don't wake up till they get caught. I think that set me on this kind of, I've done books on many things, kind of survival, and dating and all these other issues. But learning about love and relationships, like most of the books take a couple of years. This one took like 5 years because we're dealing with like your deepest parts of yourself, your heart, your soul, and the wiring of your brain. And so it really was like I never worked so hard on a book. So I'm excited. As we're speaking, I think it just comes out in like a week or two. So I can't wait. So that was the journey of this, and all the the darkness on the way to the light, and most importantly, I try to write books that are in my number one goal when I write a book is just to be interesting. Yeah. And so hopefully it's a great story.
And you are an incredible writer, an incredible storyteller. I remember the last time we met, we were at a lobby of a hotel in New York, and you had an entire crowd around you as you were talking about your adventures in North Korea. And I was thinking, man, that guy knows how to tell a story.
Right.
And but you know what? As you were saying that, I love the idea of writing books about the challenges you face in life. I bet you're going to be writing a book on parenting.
Yeah, I know.
8 years from now. I can see that happen, Neil, and I look forward to picking that one up too.
And let me tell you something, we'll end on this, which is you were saying at the beginning, we're all victims of victims, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, how do you stop the cycle as a parent? Yeah. And you were talking about, you're sort of brought up and you're thinking that you weren't, loved or weren't made to feel important. Even though your parents maybe said they love you, the behaviors didn't always match it, so you grew up confused. So before my son was born, I wrote a letter to him, while my wife was still pregnant with him. And I said, hey, dear 10, that's his name. I just want you to know that you were born with so much love and you were wanted. Your mom and I decided we're going to have a child and we wanted you and we wanted to bring in this world. Your mom and I love each other so much. And I just let him know. And again, really, and I wrote it from the heart to let him know the circumstances in which he was born. Then I put it in an envelope, sealed it, stamped it, sent it to him at my address, and now I filed it away for whenever he's 21, 25, our age, and so that at some point he can just know that no matter what may happen in the course of his life, he was born on that solid foundation of being wanted and being loved.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah.
So thank you, Neil. This was a beautiful interview. I love the way you kind of meandered into it. I still got you to answer almost all the questions.
Yeah, the other one seems boring after this.
Right,
Like
right.
it's so deep.
But I loved
Yeah.
it, and I really enjoyed seeing Ten, your kid, and having you be so raw and open about the experiences you've had in life. And for those of you listening, buy Neil's books. I don't bring authors onto this interview to help them sell their books. I bring people like Neil because they have incredible wisdom that they want to share. But Neil is an author that who I love reading his books because of the way he writes. It's one of those rare instances where you look at personal growth, and so many of those books are so blah and boring. But Neil takes his books are personal growth books, but they are written in the most incredible prose, the most incredible storylines. And so you learn so much from it. Some of his books have changed my life. You learn so much from it, but you're so entertained and hooked all the way. So thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Vish. It was great talking to you, and I can't wait to see you offline again soon, man.
Absolutely. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.